Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion right here, right now, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by the one, Sleeping Warrior, Righteous Force, Ranty Flat Earth, I believe that's Paul, Flatsoid, Chocolate Sane, and 10th Man. How are you all doing?
Doing good. Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Doing good.
Hello, hello. And we're also joined by, as I say, a whole bunch of people in Discord. So hello, one and all in Discord. You should all be off mute. Hey, QE.
Good morning.
Morning. Enthusiastic start. Any evidence of Earth curvature?
Not from Malibu Beach.
Yes.
Not in South Africa.
Shoot. Go ahead.
Okay, so
Hold on. Go ahead, Righteous.
it's climb a tree. I found this yesterday. You just climb a tree, and that's your evidence for Earth curvature.
What?
Sorry.
Well, I guess I could present it. It'd be easier if I present.
What,
share
somebody
screen?
climbing a tree?
Yeah, that's what I got from a Google result. Okay,
What?
I'm sharing now.
Okay.
And there you go. It's from this site, Crosstalk, 7 ways to prove the Earth is round. And then when I got to 3, I said climb a tree. Because the further you climb, the further your line of sight will extend to the horizon. That's because parts of the Earth were concealed from view by its curvature are now revealed because your position has changed.
Oh, I see. What they're actually doing there is they're describing the effects of perspective and relabeling them Earth curvature. So as you climb higher, you can see further because you open up the angle of view. Oh, it's Adam. How you doing, Adam? You're on mute. You're on mute.
Hi guys.
Hello.
Yeah.
Good to have you. Oh, beautiful.
Sorry,
Beautiful.
I'm on hold, so I'll mute.
Beautiful.
I thought he was in the I thought he was at a carnival.
A carnival? When do you get classical music on a carnival?
Oh, you've seen that. I mean, I've heard that, the carnivals with the merry-go-round with the horses and the kids.
Yeah, it's a carousel.
Oh yeah,
There you
carousel.
go.
Fair enough. So Earth curve, yeah. Climbing a tree just opens up your angle. So that's an effective perspective. Sod all to do with Earth curvature.
So they're trying to say get a little bit higher, you'll see a little bit more, and that's because you live on a ball. Because that won't work on a flat plane either, right? What a joke. Climb a tree. And that's one of their proofs for how you know Earth is a ball? Oh my God.
Yeah, when I went to view Liverpool's homecoming recently, there was that many people in although it was a wide area, big area, because of the volume of people or the amount of people, it made it so that you couldn't really see much beyond maybe 10 or 12 feet. You had to get higher to see over them because you couldn't see beyond them. the minute I climbed a lamppost or a set of traffic lights, I was then able to see right the way down the road. Now, it's not that I was seeing behind the curvature, it's that I was opening up the angle of elevation or the angle of observation so I could just see further. And that's what I noticed, and it was really pertinent that particular day. So it's not to do with curve, it's to do with your angle.
All right. Well, a little 5-year-old knows that it could see more when they say, "Daddy, put me on your shoulder so I can see." Like, really? this is where we're at right now? This is proof of the globe.
Yeah, that's right. That's where we're at.
Okay. All right.
Sounds a
Have
bit
at it.
like something that came from Brenda, climb a tree.
But amazingly, we've all just swallowed that, even though we were all taught what perspective was in primary school. When we've read these descriptions, me included, prior to finding out the reality of, wow, perspective, we didn't actually realise it. So it's not like that's where we're at. That's where we've been at for a very long time. They just took the effect of perspective and called it curvature. Any signs?
But during the course of my life, I've never climbed something to see more and thought, well, this is how I would see over the curvature. You just don't even think about that in regular life. You just know that
Precisely.
the higher you go, the more you can see.
Exactly. I never did that. I never thought that. I never thought, let me prove the globe. Well, I guess then I'm indicting myself, though.
Because I never experienced the globe, so
okay, well,
except on television.
Well, maybe I'm unique in that then. I did think that. So this is part of the story I give when I describe how I found out the Earth was flat. When I was on the airlines, I was acutely aware that I wasn't at a high enough altitude to see what we now describe as the reified edge of a curve model, the horizon. Well, I wanted to see Earth curve, and I wanted to go higher. Now, although it's a slightly sloppy, simile, going up a tree is just getting higher in terms of your elevation. Well, that's what I wanted. I absolutely wanted to go higher. In fact, that was the very thought that went through my mind when I was looking out that back window, or those back windows on those planes. I wish I could go higher to see curve. That's what I wanted. I couldn't. I saw flatness.
I will back you up on that, because that's the only time I did kind of think about it. But I didn't think about it in respects to, I wish I was higher to see the curve. I thought I should be high enough, at the time. I mean, I'm talking about when I was a kid, when I was, a little bit older, teenager. I'm thinking, why don't I see this curve? It just doesn't look to me the way it's presented to me on television. So there were times, I guess, I was like, maybe I'm not high enough, but that's the only time I actually thought about it, because I wanted to see the curve from up there. But down here, I had never thought about that. Down here, I'm like, yeah, it's flat plane. If I go on the second floor of my house, I could see more than on the first floor. Simple as that.
You actually thought of that?
Yeah, the only time I climbed a tree so I could see it in three dimensions.
Oh my God.
The only time I climbed a tree was to snatch the fruit. Plums, apples. Yeah, I never thought of that stuff, man.
Vince, were you affected by time?
Don't forget donuts.
Some of us climb the tree because we want to see the curve of the Earth. Some of us are just scrumping. Anyway, any signs of axial rotation?
What the hell is scrumping?
Look it up.
There's something else I remember from high school. I remember a biology teacher saying you can see the Earth curve if you climb a tree.
Well, that's a zealot.
I mean, I never tested it, but I was like, it just got imprinted in my mind. And it was like, how do you say it? I guess like pre-programming in a sense. And he probably got that pre-programming from somebody else, and he never checked it himself.
What branch of science was that?
Which branch of science supports curvature observations?
Right, are we segueing away then? Did you look at what scrumping was?
I'm definitely looking it up right now. That is too funny, man. Hold up.
Got context for a joke.
It has something to do with apples.
Yeah.
Brits
Oh,
call
Steve.
scrumping taking apples from trees we didn't own.
Yeah, stealing apples.
Stealing apples, yeah.
Yeah, stealing apples from the trees.
It's
Okay,
the implication.
cool. Learn
You
something
just,
new every day.
you just said, oh, I was just climbing for the fruit. Whereas obviously by saying scrumping, it's an implication that you're a thief. Just a low blow by implication. That was all. But there's a joke.
But it wasn't. It wasn't because I wasn't stealing anything. They were on public lands.
I know, I realise that, but that's why the implication was that you were stealing things. Just a low blow. I'm not saying you were. That was the joke. But the point is that there's a bit in Red Dwarf where the
oh no,
gotta get it in. So there's a bit in Red Dwarf where they go to this prison ship, and it puts you through this like scanning tool that just decides if you're guilty of anything, and it goes, oh no, they're gonna find out if we're guilty of things, and the robot's like, oh, you shouldn't have anything to worry about. It's like, yeah, but when I was a kid, I went scrumping. And he says, I'm sure, the robot says, I'm sure stealing a few apples won't get you imprisoned. He goes, yeah, but we used to go scrumping for cars.
Got it. Yeah.
I've got a joke.
Go on.
Are we good for jokes?
Yeah, we're only on Earth Curve. It's only like 10 minutes in, one housekeeping question down. But yeah, go ahead. I have.
Riley and Rumpus live next door to each other. There's a chicken, and he's stood on the fence in between the two dividing properties, and he drops an egg, and the egg falls on one side of the fence, but the chicken belongs to the other side. So both people run out. Riley and Rumpus both run out, and they meet each other at the fence, and they start arguing over whose egg it is. The chicken belongs to Rumpus, but it's laid the egg on my side. So possession's 9/10 of the law. But Rumpus says, no, but you can't have the egg because you couldn't have the egg without the chicken. The egg is therefore mine. So an argument ensues over who actually owns the egg because it's fallen on one side of the fence, but it shouldn't really be there, but it is there. So who owns the egg? So the only way they can decide how to settle this one is to basically have a fight. But Rumpus doesn't want to fight. So he suggests instead, rather than fight, what we'll do is we'll test out our man strength in some other way. So an arm wrestle is suggested, and it's refused. And then a joust is suggested, but it's refused. And in the end, it's decided that the man with the biggest pair of testicles is the one that wins. So basically, we're going to take turns. We're going to kick each other in the nuts, and the one that screams the loudest loses. So it's agreed that's what the rule is. So they decided Riley and Rumpus have to have a conversation about who goes first. Rumpus says, I'm a bigger man than you. I'll take any kick you can give me. Give me your worst. So Riley takes a couple of steps backwards, lines up a massive thwack, and whacks him as hard as he can in between his nuts. Rumpus doesn't let out a squeak. He absorbs it all like some kind of radioactive absorbing machine, and he doesn't make a single peep. To be honest, it was impressive. Riley kicked as hard as he could, and Rumpus absorbed all of it. Didn't make a squeak. Comes to Riley's chance. Rumpus says, right then, I didn't make a single noise there. He said, I'm sure you're going to scream now. He says, my turn. Riley just gives him the egg and fucks off.
What the hell? Oh my god.
I like it. The art of fighting without fighting, baby.
Yeah.
Is gonna catch up.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's how smart go-gets are.
It's the simplest ones that are the best. Shout out to Rumpus.
Any signs?
Hey, the way you started.
Any signs?
The way you started, you said Riley and Rumpus, and I was going back to scrumping, and I was thinking Riley and Rumpus sitting in the tree. I thought you were going to say that.
K-I-S-S-I-N-G.
We had that discussion about Ranty and Riley in the pre-show. I mean, short of them describing the post-coital cigarette they didn't have, there was talk of them chatting, pillow talk, Anthony getting tired and going to bed, whispering in his ear. It was all there, man.
I genuinely went to bed last night, but because Ranty wanted to debrief afterwards, he didn't think I'd actually gone to bed. He thought I'd rage quit, but I was genuinely in bed, and he rang, and I'm like, what do you want? I'm asleep. And he's like, oh, right, I'll phone you tomorrow then. I said, okay, bye.
So, any signs of axial rotation of the
Any signs of
testicular
axis?
variety?
Was that of the Earth-based variety?
I actually said
Yeah,
it.
Ranty, of the Earth-based variety, yeah.
Yeah, no then.
No, that's of the axial-based variety.
Is there any way to taste this, though?
Taste it.
Taste. Can I taste it anyway?
Oh,
Yeah, that's the problem.
It's the
Can't
South
test it.
African. Yeah, test. I thought you said taste. Like, anyway, to taste axial rotation. Yeah, it
Nom, nom,
tastes.
nom, nom, nom.
It tastes red.
I thought it tasted 14.
Tastes quite loud, deafening, in fact. Anyway, axial rotation. Anybody?
No axis.
No, I think the best argument they come up with is the sky seems to rotate, but for some reason they don't say it's the sky rotating, they say it's us. And we're like, really? Where's the
It's
graph?
EQ mount. That's the argument. Always the EQ mount.
Look into the sky to denote that we're moving, rather than measuring it.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
It's a force field.
What?
Just said last night that gravity was a force field.
Force field?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a
Go
bit
on, Ranty,
confused.
tell him how it happened.
No, gravity is a barrier, apparently.
No, he actually said it was a force field.
And it was the force field. Yeah, I got him to say that as well. He actually said that, what was it? It's a closed system as well, not an open system.
Yeah, he did, and I'm surprised you allowed him to get away with that, Ranty. I'd have jumped all over him on that.
Rumpus said it's a closed system.
Yeah.
While believing people went to the moon.
Well, he switches to suit, doesn't he? Depends on what the argument is. He flip flops. Sometimes it's an open system, sometimes it's closed. Last night it was a closed.
I did
okay.
take a little quote of that last night. It's rockets, hydrogen, and helium-3, man-made rockets, and occasionally an oxygen molecule that's bashed hard enough to get exit entry, but you can't get out. That glass is just like the way gravity acts.
Like a force field.
What?
I want to break down some of these words.
What?
So, yeah, exactly. That was my reaction. Now it's yours as well. So let's break down these words a bit. So
The force field.
yeah, force field. Let's break down that word a little bit. Is it one word or two? It's force
I
field.
would think that's 2 words.
Yeah, hyphenated. Come on,
Maybe.
force field. Let's break that down. So let's start with force. What's that?
It's an interaction, a push or a pull.
Does gravity do that?
It does balls. Bendy space time.
Is that a no?
No.
Okay.
Yes, no.
So gravity's a force field, and so far it's not a force. What's a field in this context?
Well, in the context, it would have to be something solid. Right? If we're talking about a force field.
Can you guys see my screen?
Look it up.
Can you guys see my screen on here?
Yep.
This is from physics.org. About 1 kilogram of material is escaping our atmosphere every second, amounting to almost 9 per day. So I guess the Earth is a closed system, according to that, right?
No, it's not. What are we talking about here?
A field.
What is a closed system?
Well, let me just define a field. A piece of land used
Yeah,
for
go
a
ahead.
particular purpose, especially an area marked out for a game or sport, an area of open land, especially one planted with crops for pasture, typically bounded by hedge or fences. So, field is a specific amount of area.
Would that be
Nah,
actual?
nah.
Yeah.
You got to get the field from physics, a region in which each point is affected by a force. So it's sort of a tautology. Force field.
But it's everything gravity isn't.
Yeah,
This, like
exactly.
according to my article, according to the article I just posted, this force field is very inefficient because there's so much that's escaping out. 90 tons per day.
Wait a second. Yeah, but wait a second. You got to get back to what a closed system is and an open system. So, an open system, a system that can exchange matter and energy with its surroundings, as opposed to a closed system, a system that can only exchange energy with its surroundings. So, is hydrogen and helium and rockets matter?
Yes, they are. Yes, and apparently those are capable in the open system that is described as the sky vacuum of being exchanged with the vast space that they can, according to this open system they claim the heliocentric model is, fill. So, yes, those interactions between those physical properties can absolutely take place with the open system claimed to be Earth. Yes.
Well, Nathan, if you
If
go look
it's
at their
one
report,
hydrogen-
it says
Hold
it's a
on.
system and open
Hold
system
on.
at the same time.
Hold on. If it's one hydrogen atom that goes from one system to the other in your fairy tale paradigm, then guess what? It's an open system. One. Just one. Clowns. Oh, and entropy doesn't apply to the Earth too, right, Rumpus? And air is not the atmosphere. What does atmo mean?
Means air.
Air. Dumbass.
Move on. Anything more? Flatsoid? Did you want to add something?
No.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Just a hole about 11 kilometers deep and a couple of squiggly lines.
And all the rest you get from movies.
Or conspiracy cats who bullshits that one. He pushes that.
About the distance to the sun?
What is the sun? Can't get its distance because we don't know its size. Can't get its size because we don't know its distance. Circular reasoning, we'll never find out.
Can only go on assumptions.
Speaking of assumptions, any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
Climate tree.
Take 2 sticks.
A flat plane does not have a radius. Spherical radius.
So the next couple.
Paul, why is it every time that you post something from NASA, one of these gas, either graphs or something, they've always got it in a container? Why is that?
Well,
I have no idea.
Well,
I was going to bring up something once we got to gas pressure. I'm waiting. So
yeah, that'll all get bundled in. Yeah, that'll all get bundled into the last question because it will revolve around what you're about to say first, presumably Paul, and then Dr. Daniel Faulkner. But the reason is because you can't have gas pressure without a container. To quote conspiracy cats, quote, "Without the container, there can be no pressure," end quote. Shout out to Alexandra for the super chat. Says, make it simple. And then a picture of a globe. And then a picture of a donkey, I believe. And then a picture of a poo with eyes. Lovely. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate your support. Okay, so if Paul can go first, I was going to bundle these together, but for the benefit of Paul, I won't. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container?
No.
Nope.
Hey, Nathan.
I'll done, Sleeping Warrior. I will definitely be having an extensive discussion on this topic with you, but go ahead, Paul. You're on screen.
Okay. Now, obviously, the way I understand gas pressure, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, what creates the pressure is the amount of collisions and how much kinetic energy is colliding with the walls of the container. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes,
that's correct.
The number of collisions, how much energy, and even the weight of the particle, the molecular weight of the particle also has a factor in that. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay.
Define weight.
Well, that's why I said chemical weight, because I think it's the size and the atomic structure of the particle itself. You know, like how many neutrons, protons, electrons, all that fun stuff.
So the higher the mole value.
Right. Well, I mean,
Go on.
my thing.
Let's get this square. I'm sorry, Paul. Go ahead, QE.
No, I said go on because chemical weight. What is weight? I don't want to go down that road. Just go on.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just a thought. I mean, it could be a thought experiment, it could be whatever. But I've asked this question to the ballers on Discord. If you had the same volume, the same mole value, the same number of particles, and the same temperature of, let's say, helium in one volume and the oxygen molecule in a second volume, the only thing different is the particle itself. That's the only difference. You have the same amount, same temperature, same volume. Which would have more pressure? And they all agreed that the oxygen, the O2, would have more pressure in it because of the nature of the particle itself. Now, that being said, now we say that it's the collision of particles and how much energy has been exerted, or how many collisions are going on to the walls of the container, as this is illustrating. Now, here's something. They always bring up the weight of the gas above us. Remember, that's the standard argument. Well, if gas is colliding with us, how's there weight above us? Well, when I looked up weighing a gas, every time I pull one up, you know the funny thing they always seem to have to weigh the gas?
Container.
It's a container. You have to contain the gas to even weigh it. So how do you?
My point last night.
I was going to say.
And that's why I'm bringing this up, because I've been saying. I mean, I've been thinking about that, because I'm like, it's the amount of collisions that's hitting my body, and the amount of force that's hitting my body is creating the pressure. It's really not the weight that's causing it. It's the collisions. Would you agree, Q? Am I missing this, or am I getting this right?
No, I'd agree with that.
Okay. So you can't say there's weight above you. It's the amount of collisions, right? Because you can't even weigh the gas unless you contain it. So how do you weigh the gas that's not contained? So how can you prove that there's a weight of air above you if you can't?
That was a bit Rumpus was just not accepting. If you don't have a container,
hold on.
contain it.
Give the answer again. You spoke over him. Just give the answer again, Sleeping Warrior.
If you don't have a container to contain the molecules to weigh the weight, then because you don't have any cohesion between the particles, you don't have any bonding between the particles, you haven't got any particles, you've got no mass. So what you're doing is you're trying to capture a fart and measure a fart, the weight of a fart, and you can't. So how do you measure the weight of a fart? You can't. There's no mass there to weigh.
Exactly. That was my point. So technically, the argument that there's air and weight above us, they can't.
Sorry to overtalk you. I just want to be a bit more careful. We've got to be hyper-specific. There's no combined mass because it's unbonded.
Yeah, there's no cohesion between the particles. The particles that smell, right, they're not connected. So that lack of cohesion means there's no unified mass. You have lots and lots of little particles, but there's no mass. You have lots of little particles that we refer to as masses, but they're not mass. So the lack of cohesion means that it's not mass.
So, in other words, the atmosphere, they're attempting feebly, I might add, to treat the atmosphere as a single entity when it is not. It is an inhomogeneous, anisotropic mixture of gases.
Yes.
You clowns.
It's the lack of cohesion
That's the point.
that makes it masses.
One of the questions I've asked Zanuck many times is, what's the weight of that gas particle that's accelerating away from the Earth? How do you weigh that? How do you weigh that particle? It's accelerating away.
You don't, so I'll give a concise answer to this one. It's a contradiction in terms. If weight is this 9.8 meters per second downwards, then a gas particle accelerating upwards isn't that. You have a complete contradiction.
Thank you. I'm done.
And Riley, even if there was cohesion between the bonds of the gas, they still don't have gravity because it's still the bending of a concept.
I know. I only gave them gravity so that
then
we
it wouldn't
didn't
be a
spend any
gas.
time arguing.
Hold on. If it was bonded, it wouldn't be gas.
Yeah, it'd be a solid.
Right, but I'm saying you're arguing about there's no cohesion between them. Well, that's no point because they don't have any force that's doing anything to anything.
I know.
So what the hell?
I know. I only gave them
I
gravity.
know you know, but
so that I didn't get into the back and forth on gravity and lose the point on mass. But Rumpus won't let me speak, so Rumpus wins by not letting me speak. It's like strangling someone. You can't argue with them if they're being strangled of air, and that's what he does.
Got you. It's like a double prong attack. You're going at them for the mass, not the gravity.
Well,
gravity's already dead anyway. So
we summarised this a few days back, and it was made comparable to my 3-year-old. That's what children do.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
There's one more housekeeping question. So if it's not on topic, can it wait? But if it is, go ahead.
No, it's with gas.
Go ahead.
If you take an engine, it's got compression, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you have to put a hole in that engine, would that have compression anymore?
No. Well, it would have greatly reduced compression at the very least.
So all that compression gases will disperse.
Yeah, they'll get forced out the hole.
And
this is at where gravity is the strongest.
On the ground
At sea level.
Yeah. Yeah, an engine's another example of containment.
And one more example that somebody should soon try and do is weighing a helium fish tank turned upside down on a scale. I want to see Rumpus claiming that this is down.
But you can easily, there's a much more simplistic example of the same thing you're saying, the one, which is you put a helium balloon on a scale and you get a weight when it's empty. Then you fill it with helium balloon. Do you still get a weight on the same scale? Oh no, it's going up. Well, it's not going to have a 9.8 meters per second attributable to it when it's going away from the scale. And their weight is their gravity, the downward force, right? Well, is it moving down instantaneously? It is simplistic. So when you just say, yeah, helium balloon debunks that, people will not often just hand wave that. Like, no, it doesn't. Yeah, we know why balloons go up. The gravity of the Earth is pulling the gas, the inhomogeneous anisotropic mixture of gases down, forcing the balloon up. That's not possible. The gases, all of them, are moving randomly and freely, unbonded in all directions. So no, that's not applicable. So a helium balloon genuinely does debunk this nonsense when you're asserting as a force, which there isn't. It's a concept now. It's a bending of a conceptual medium for things to move along in time. Go ahead.
And apparently the only thing that's making the distinction between what's going up and what's going down are the relative densities between the medium and the thing. So, yeah. But they still claim that relative density is not a thing.
I don't know if that's a misrepresentation of their position. They incorporate relative density into the gravity equation, and they call it buoyancy. So that's a bit of a misrepresentation to say that they say it's not real. They just incorporate it with gravity. But it works on things that are bonded. As soon as you get into the anisotropic mixture of gases that we have in our atmosphere, atmo being air, sphere being a fundy presupposition, i.e. when you use that word atmosphere, you are automatically begging the question of a sphere Earth and the gases being capable of defying natural law all of a sudden, because you've attributed this word atmosphere to them. Atmo just means air. Sphere just means fundy presupposition of a heliocentric world in this context. Right, any more on gas pressure without a container, because I want the next subject to get the most attention. And I've got a super chat to shout out.
Oh, space is big.
Okay, shout out to Joseph369. Any evidence of a Terminator line? That's a very good question. Might not be one for today. We might get it in. Hopefully we will address your question, Joseph. It's a very, very good point. Thank you very much for the super chat. Also shout out
I have the Terminator line.
Not that kind of Terminator. Not sent back from the future to destroy all globe heads. Also shout out to Vlad on Flat Earth. Science and senses prove flat and stationary Earth. About science on that one, not really a causal relationship, but I appreciate your sentiment and definitely thank you very much for the super chat, Blood on Flat Earth. Yeah, science is pretty narrow. It's just establishment of cause. So, cause, flat, nah, sorry. I hate to do it when someone's giving me money, but I can't do it, I'm sorry. Anyway, right, so, last but by no means least, is there any evidence in the entire history of cosmology, astronomy, or astrophysics of any viable hypotheses?
Hold on, I just got unmuted right now. Could I add one more thing to the gas pressure?
Timing.
We're talking about?
Of course you can. Go ahead, Babs.
Someone said that gases don't have any bonds between them, but that's not true. They have weak intermolecular bonds between them.
So you think
gases? They're very loose.
So you think the gas is all bonded together?
No.
Do you want to explain? Do you want to expand on what you mean?
Sure. If we're looking at a given gas, not the atmosphere as a whole, in a given gas, you can observe intermolecular bonds between the molecules of that gas.
Oh, of course, yeah. That's why they've got such long names in so many instances. Yes, I appreciate that.
Hold on a second. Say that one more time.
I said that if you observe a given gas, you will be able to see intermolecular bonds.
Intramolecular bonds, not intermolecular bonds, or it wouldn't be a gas.
Yeah, you're right. Intramolecular forces.
That's a new one on me.
Thank you.
Sorry, you'll have to clarify that English. You'll have to excuse my ignorance. Intra, meaning inter, I get. Intra?
Intra.
What's the difference?
Within the molecule itself. Like O2, there's intra, inside O2. Inter means a connection between other molecules. There is none in gases.
But intra means internal. Because I appreciate what he meant, even though his terminology was slightly wrong. But this is a very subtle distinction, but it's important. Because intermolecular, if I could say it, intermolecular bonds would imply that it's no longer gas. The entirety of the structure, each of those separate particles are bonded, therefore no longer gas. But at a molecular level, there may be different properties to each part, and that would be an intramolecular bonding, correct?
Yeah, under appropriate conditions, the attractions between all gas molecules will cause them to form liquids or solids.
Yeah, but that's temperature and pressure.
Yeah, that is due to temperature and pressure, and that's intermolecular forces. But QE is correct when he says that the intramolecular forces are those within the molecule that keep the molecule together, which is completely different.
Sure, that's why you've got like sulfur dihexafluoride. Well, that name is the list of all of the composition. Well, yeah, it's not one thing, as you're correctly identifying, but that doesn't mean that each of those are not bonded on an intermolecular level. I'm only just learning this English, so as you can probably tell in the audience. No, they are bonded on. Yeah, they are bonded on an intramolecular, but not bonded on an intermolecular level.
Correct.
Perfect.
So the intramolecular bond is what would keep the two O2s together.
Yeah.
Why you would have O2. Right, gotcha.
Anyway, there was something else that you mentioned, and I'm not 100% clear on this myself. You said that, I'm going to paraphrase, if you apply lots of pressure to a gas and you pack them as tightly as they can be packed, so they have no physical area to move around in within the container that's been squashed, then does that mean that they are suddenly bonded as fluids or exhibit fluid-like behavior? Sorry. Yeah, was that the correct word? Fluid? Yes.
No, liquid-like behavior.
Yeah, I thought I was wrong. Liquid-like behavior, when it would be the terminology would be fluid, because it's exhibiting liquid-like behavior because it's tightly packed together. but it's not actually bonded as a liquid. But because it behaves
Exactly.
as such when it's shoved all together very closely, you get the description of fluids, i.e. gases that are tightly packed, or bonded liquids, which are two still...
I hate that.
It's just a bit of a tongue
I
twister,
hate
isn't
that
it?
term, fluid.
Fluid, yeah, it's a bugger because it's artificial in the respect that you're condensing this gas down to the point where it's, you know, squashed so closely together that it could appear as though it's bonded, but at a fundamental level it still is not bonded at an intermolecular level.
It's
Oh,
called
God.
liquefaction.
Go ahead, Ten. The one. Say that again.
That process is called liquefaction.
No, liquefaction is when you vibrate a solid and it becomes a liquid.
That's what they call it with gases. They say that nitrogen can be liquefied, and
Oh, really?
they named it liquefaction.
Oh, okay. So it's the same term when you go from being a gas to being squashed to the point of having some sort of fluid dynamics applicable.
Yeah, that's what
Wow.
they call it in industry, though.
Liquefaction? I did not know it was applicable in that respect. Wow, you learn something new every day.
Yeah.
So scrumping.
Yeah, I'm going to re-ask the question, the last housekeeping question. Hopefully, we've still got 20 minutes. Excellent. So, any evidence in the entirety of the histories of cosmology, astronomy, or astrophysics of any viable hypothesis?
Not by Danny Faulkner.
Not according to Michio Kaku either.
Not according to Neil deGrasse Tyson. You there, Sleeping Warrior? We discussed this on the pre-show, if he's not, so I'll give a little warmer-upper till he comes off mute. Hopefully I'll drag out what I say as long as till he comes off mute. But Sleeping Warrior was in a discussion thread with Dr. Daniel Faulkner and lots of his minions. And to cut a long story short, at the point that he's asking Dr. Daniel Faulkner to verify scientifically the conceptual medium of space-time being bent to give rise to a geodesic for something to travel along, when this was originally highlighted as a point excluded from his explanation when it comes to having gas pressure without a container, i.e. gravity as a force in this regard. So Anthony's brought him on this comment thread to the point where he has accepted that his omission of Einsteinian mechanics in this regard was unjustified because he accepts that many PhDs describe gravity in the Einsteinian context as not being a force, and it is not, according to Daniel Faulkner, contradictory when they then go on to say it is a force, even though it's absolutely contradictory. So, at this point, Anthony asks for scientific validity, and one of the trolls on this forum, Facebook in this instance, states that it is not necessary to vary an independent variable in order to gain scientific validity. Anthony then provides 10... yeah, exactly. Anthony then provides 10 citations, completely dismissing that notion and proving beyond any but reasonable person who had any scientific acumen would understand. I.e., yes, you need to vary a variable to prove cause of an effect. That's science. Now, this may look terrible on Daniel Faulkner for not addressing the person that's standing between him and the actual questions being raised. And as I understood it from what was read out on yesterday's debate, so if you want to check out Nathan Oakley channel and the Uncut and After show, I believe it's 10:36, that has got the discussion being read out. Unfortunately, Anthony's screen share didn't work, so we didn't actually get to see it, but he was reading it out as he was typing it and getting replies. And the only rebuttal was from Daniel Faulkner to say, "You don't understand," and then remove Anthony from the group. So Anthony's now been removed from that chat thread. And the reason was because he was at the stage where he was asking for scientific validity to be given to this idea that you can have a conceptual medium bent to give rise to a not actual force called gravity. So that's where we're at, and I was hoping Anthony could give us his summary, or he's still not come off mute in my entire... I dragged that out as much as humanly possible. It still hasn't come off mute. Isn't that great? Timing is impeccable.
I can tell you were dragging it out.
Maybe your comments, QE, and then hopefully Anthony will rejoin this conversation when he pricks his ears up. Or when we've moved on to a different subject, he'll come back and go, oh, by the way, Danny Faulkner.
No, I didn't have anything to add. I could tell you were dragging it out purposely, though. It was pretty funny.
Okay, well, I'll just give a conclusion. A Sleeping Warrior's not here. He's here in spirit. So the bottom line is, in this thread, and Anthony raised this as one of the points he put out when he was taken out of what would be described as a sin bin. I don't understand how Facebook works. Nevertheless, he returns and says, look, you're allowed to spout nonsense if you're on the Globe side of this argument, but if you put up any rebuttal or challenge, you'll be removed. So don't put up any challenge to any Globe head assertions here. And then was allowed to then put what I mentioned earlier in a very elongated way across in this comment thread. So Anthony's asking for science. They're asserting that you can have not actual forces, and the contradictions aren't contradictions when you say those not actual forces are forces. But upon asking for scientific validity, Anthony was removed. That's the effect. That's the state of the world we live in. If you ask for empirical evidence, i.e. actual science, and then get told that no, you don't need to adhere to the method of science to get scientific validity, I can just make up a story and call it science, and you knock that down with 10 citations, and then ask again for actual scientific validity for the just so stories that this pseudoscientist, let's be honest, Dr. Daniel Faulkner has asserted, then you will be removed. That's a glorious position. Now that I've explained it all, I'll change the tone entirely and say, this is a wonderful position to be in, and I've said it before. We are flat earthers, and we are asking questions about having scientific validity to the assertion that we live on a spinning ball flying through a vacuum around the light in the sky we call the sun. Now, when we ask for scientific validity, we get removed. And why? Well, because they want to assert in that comment thread that there's a not actual force caused by the bending of a conceptual medium known as space-time that allows gas pressure to defy a natural law. That's what they want to be able to assert. And hell be it for anybody who comes in and says, have you got any scientific validity for this? So just take solace, anybody who's out there that gets tortured and tormented by globeheads who are in consensus. The truth is definitely on our side. When you ask for scientific empiricism for any assertion that the Earth is a sphere, you will not get it. You'll be removed, and you can smile when you are, because it says it all. It speaks volumes. You ask for science, you'll be removed. Still no Sleeping Warrior.
He's still not here.
That's okay. I summarised it as much as I could anyway. Just we had the first-hand account on the pre-show from Anthony, so subscribe today to Nathan Oakley channel. There is a link in the info box. If you're not already subscribed to the second channel, that's where the majority of the uncut and after shows go out, and quite often there is some fascinating conversations that take place before these shows go live. I appreciate most of the audience watching now only watch the live show. Obviously, there's a smaller audience on the second channel. But some of the key moments have happened when people are that little bit more relaxed because there's not a live show going out. So, you know, if it's fantastic, I'll trim it out and stick it out on the main channel anyway. But on the whole, it's well worth subscribing. So subscribe today, link in the info box to Nathan Oakley channel. And you can see that conversation there. It'll go out at 10 PM UK time this evening. You can hear Anthony discussing his woes. And it's weird because the other day, 10th man, I don't know if you're still here, when Anthony first had his rebuttal of hillbilly blue balls, gas pressure gradient in 2 containers, Anthony was like, oh, this is terrible. And you're trying to explain to him, no, it's fantastic. It's so brilliant because now we've got him over a barrel having cited hillbilly blue balls. Wonderful day. And Anthony at the time's like, but how could he do that? You know, it's kind of torn in your reaction to this sort of stuff. And Anthony getting removed, it was the same. He's like, oh, they've removed me. I'm like, wonderful. You ask for scientific validity and you get removed so that they can talk double speak about non-contradictions with forces that are called non-forces, that they will need to be forces to hold gas pressure without a container in violation of laws. Wonderful, wonderful. Happy days.
Yes, we are in happy days.
Exactamundo.
You have something you want to present, Paul? Screen sharing.
Well, I'm not screen sharing.
Oh, it's Ranty. Sorry, Ranty, did you want to get something in?
Yeah. I was down on the beach again today. I noticed that gravity had a day off again. The Earth wasn't as curved as they said it should be.
Oh, that's bad.
Huh?
That's bad.
That's really bad. I mean, I'm surprised it didn't fly off, with having no gravity pulling me down. But certainly the water wasn't acting as it should. And what you're going to see in a second should have been all hidden by Earth curvature from nearly 24 miles away. All these buildings over here that you're seeing, Earth curve should have been in the way, but gravity clearly wasn't working today. And that's why we can see them. Pretty astonishing, really, isn't it?
Where's this taken?
This was down from the bottom of the ramp at the Mirror Ball today. I'll probably put this video out today. I'll just fast forward it a little bit. There we go. You can see these buildings. Ooh. There they are, all on the horizon, way over there from an elevation of approximately 15 feet. 200 feet, even including standard refraction, should have been missing. Those buildings are only 167 feet tall. None of them should have been visible, but obviously we saw them, so I assume gravity had a day off. What do you say, Nath?
What are they? What are the buildings?
Devonshire Dock Hall, Barrowing Furnace from 23.7 miles away. I've got it up on Google Earth, actually. So that chimney that you were looking at there, the chimney is right here. So this is the chimney, as you can see, with the two chimney stacks. Different types of buildings that are on top. There's a building right here that you see in the video. There's this building here, which is Devonshire Dock Hall, which is also in the video, and other parts of Devonshire Dock Hall over here. And yeah, it's a long way away, mate. 23.75 miles away today from the bottom of the ramp at the Mirror Ball. Way down here. The tide was at 3 meters. High tide envelops where I was standing, so I was able to get a pretty accurate height above actual sea level, which would have been about 15 feet. Also, I went along, so that was the tide times today, which I've brought up. But I've put the distances into Metabunk, so we're going with Mick West here. He says that including refraction, 198 feet should be missing. So, those buildings shouldn't have been seen. And I also went and checked the surf report today. So we did have quite a bit of swell. We had about a 2 foot swell, and we had around about 2 foot of chop as well on the waves. So it was just interesting. And I saw this post. Did you see this yesterday, Nath? I put it on my show last night.
I've seen it before. I actually had one of these as a kid. It's a dynamic system in a closed bottle.
Yeah, but this has been going for 60 years.
Yeah,
but I like the little part at the end. The bottle is essentially a microcosm of Earth, and they don't even realize that it's all contained in a container.
Perfect. Thank you, Ranty.
Yeah, no worries.
It looks like gravitational looming to me.
Oh, the video gravitation.
Actually, just while you've got the video up, if you can just pause it on any frame, that's perfect. So that's Devonshire Dock Hall. We see it because that's where Devonshire Dock Hall is. That's the explanation for us as flat earthers. End of explanation. Devonshire Dock Hall. What'd you say the distance was?
23.75 miles.
Devonshire Dock Hall at 23.7 miles. End of explanation as a flat earther. Short pause. As a globe head, that's not the Devonshire Dock Hall. That would be a slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena holographic projection of the Devonshire Dock Hall from behind the reified edge of an Earth curve based on an R value and a begging the question, proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator to turn the Devonshire Dock Hall from a Devonshire Dock Hall that we as flat earthers say is just there because we see it into a mirage. It's not a mirage. It's just the Devonshire Dock Hall. The Earth is obviously and observably flat. Thanks, Ranty.
No worries.
Also, I liked your closed system, although you strapped it on at the end. But, as we've got a couple of minutes left, Terminator line. I quite like that one, because there is no Terminator line. It's a concept that they use on a sphere Earth. You turn and there's a little black line that moves across the Earth as it comes into the line of sight of the sun. Well, in reality, we don't have that, do we? Anybody who's watched a sunrise will appreciate that the sun just fades in. It doesn't come with a dark line behind it at any point, at any altitude. You're never going to see that. We had Pillbox on who showed us a sunset from altitude, and it just slowly fades out. It doesn't have a line. There is no Terminator line. It's a complete load of nonsense.
There is one Terminator
I mean,
line.
to me, I could be wrong, but to me, it feels like if there was a Terminator line, if we were a ball spinning in that manner, that it would just literally be like turning a light on and off. Like it would just appear sun. Oh, look, sun. It wouldn't fade in and fade out the way it does with sunsets.
Well, not only that, when you see it depicted in their CGI models, it's like consistent across the surface of their reified ball, Earth. Well, in reality, depending on the time of year, sunset can come like that really quickly. Just the sun goes, normally in winter. Whereas in the late summer months, you can have really long twilight hours. Like really, really long twilight hours. In other words, it's massively varied depending on the time of year. So this idea of a line, it's just, to me, so preposterous.
Imagine running from this line.
I'm going to escape the Terminator. I love it, Ranty.
That would be like a game. It'd be like, oh, look. There's the line, it's coming. You know, you'd be able to see it.
Well, guys, they've done this in a movie with Vin Diesel, The Chronicles of Riddick.
Yep. I know what you're talking about.
Simon Dan in the chat says Nathan being confused at nature again. Well, you're welcome to join the panel, Simon Dan.
Yes, Simon. Come on through, butter.
Don't shout from the sidelines. Come and join.
That's why he's Sideman Dan.
I had a message from Dearth about Simon Dan. So he sends me a link to a Simon Dan video and he says, free channel promotion again. And the link to a video that looks like it's got a thumbnail saying something about blimps. Can't quite read it. It's funny colours. My response, you watch Simon Dan? Question mark. So yeah. Dearth appreciates your advert by the sounds of things, Simon Dan. Not that I was aware that you'd given him an advert.
There is only one Terminator line, and that's the flat line. Because it terminates the globe.
Did you guys see that? There's a clip that somebody did out in the ocean on a really calm night / day, because he flips the camera 180 degrees and he can see the sun fading in on one side and it's quite light, and as he flips around it's pitch black. But he's not sat on a line. You know, he's just at the point where the sun's just coming into view and he can see one side of his periphery light and one side dark. There's no bloody line, though.
Yeah, but it's a gradient.
It implies that at the point the sun, the direct lines of sunlight hit the Earth as it turns, there's gonna be, that's what it's necessitated by the way that model works. And as it turns, as this reified Earth turns, that line would move along it. The terminator, as the word implies, between light and dark, the termination of the light and the beginning of the dark. But you've only got to experience a sunrise or a sunset to appreciate that that does not happen. That's not how the world presents itself at all. It's not even, it doesn't even require debunking, in my humble opinion, because it's so preposterous. You've only got to go out and actually experience the world for a fleeting moment at those times, sunrise or sunset, to know that you don't have like the sun appear on the horizon and suddenly the light appears. In fact, you can wait an eternity in some instances, not an eternity, a very long time, to even see the sun. But it gets light, it's getting lighter. Oh, it's really light. Oh, there's the sun over the horizon. You know, it doesn't work the way it's described in the model. And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who tuned in on the Nathan Oakley 1980 live stream, for smashing the super chat, hopefully sharing and subscribing and all that good stuff. Stay tuned if you're watching on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, and as I say, if you're watching live and you're not subscribed to Nathan Oakley channel, then hit the link in the info box below this video. Of course, a massive thank you to all of today's Discord and G+ panels for making this live show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on the premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!